They have stood firmly behind Sam Howell and have made it known that this is the guy that they plan to kind of take a long look at and even have as their starting quarterback. Washington never seemed to make any attempts to go after any other quarterbacks in free agency. If Sam Howell happens to hit, then the Washington Commanders hit the mother lode.
The Washington Commanders are still in a long-awaited wait to find their franchise quarterback, but I think there's a lot of hope that they can find that player in the next 12 months. It's been a really long drought for the Washington Commanders to have a true quarterback one to build around. For some people, you have to go all the way back to the 1940s or the 1950s to find their best quarterback in franchise history in Sammy Baugh. Others point to the late 70s, the early 80s with Joe Theismann until his tragic injury. But honestly, for a casual NFL fan, I don't think anybody really knows those players off of name recognition, and I think that just shows that Washington hasn't had a true bona fide quarterback in the entire franchise history. The most popular quarterback for them that was supposed to fit that role was Robert Griffin III, who they drafted out of Baylor in the 2012 NFL Draft, and in his rookie season, he looked like a future star. He set so many records, he led Washington to the playoffs, but unfortunately in the playoff game against the Seattle Seahawks, he would tear his ACL and then really never be the same again. And really after that one-year wonder for RG3, the quarterback who they drafted in the 4th round after RG3 in the same draft ended up having a better overall career in Kirk Cousins. And Cousins was a really solid quarterback for Washington. He made a Pro Bowl, he threw for over 4,000 yards multiple times, but when push came to shove, the Washington organization did not want to pay Kirk Cousins $80 million, so he hit the open market and signed with the Minnesota Vikings. Now people look back on that move for Washington and kind of question their thought process, but I do think it's kind of an interesting decision that they made. Personally, I don't see Kirk Cousins as a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think he's solid, probably around the 12th best quarterback in the league, but is he going to carry your franchise? Is he going to make you a routine contender in the NFL? I don't necessarily see that. So not paying that type of quarterback and handicapping what you can do with your roster, I think honestly might have been the best overall decision for them. So to replace him, the Commanders brought in Alex Smith to be their quarterback, who was also seen as kind of a similar Kirk Cousins type of quarterback at the time, but he did not get nearly as much money as Cousins did. And Washington would actually have some decent success with him in his first year. They would start off 6-3, look like a potential playoff team until Alex Smith would suffer a career-threatening ankle injury. Without Smith, they would lose 6 out of their last 7 games to end that season, and they would end up with a top pick in the 1st round. And that is when they would pivot to their next quarterback in Dwayne Haskins out of Ohio State. And there was a lot of hype surrounding Haskins in Washington as soon as he was drafted. And I remember during that draft, not many people believed that Haskins was going to fall to Washington, who had the 15th overall pick, but he did, and things would just never end up working out with Haskins and the Commanders. And now we know about the whole Haskins situation. Rest in peace to him. And really since that draft, the last time when they decided to use a premium pick on a quarterback, they decided to go the veteran route, and things have not really worked out that way either. Case Keenum has even started some games. Kyle Allen has even gotten some snaps. They signed Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2021, but he got hurt in week 1, so Tyler Heineke started all season long. And now we've really gotten to present day Washington Commanders. This past year, they traded for Carson Wentz. He did not work out. He started 7 games for the team, was not very good. Taylor Heineke then took over, rallied the troops a little bit. Washington looked like a potential playoff team during the middle of the season, but a rough December stretch forced them to miss the playoffs, and now there's even more questions about who's going to be their quarterback of the future starting in 2023. Currently, their quarterbacks on the roster are Sam Howell, who they drafted in the 5th round of last year's draft, and longtime journeyman quarterback Jacoby Brissett. Now, Howell has gotten a lot of support from the Washington organization and coaching staff this offseason. They've routinely called him quarterback 1 and how he's going to start for the team week 1, and we can kind of validate those comments because Washington did not invest a pick in a quarterback in the draft. They didn't go out and try to sign a quarterback like Derek Carr or try to trade for Aaron Rodgers or even Lamar Jackson. So really all of the offseason, they've been set in stone on Sam Howell, and they just brought in a veteran journeyman backup to kind of support him and help him along the way. They did pay Jacoby Brissett a 1-year deal up to $10 million. Some people do view that as starting caliber money, so I do think there's a chance if Howell does struggle pretty early on that they go to Brissett to try and save their season. But I think everybody watching this video, and myself included, knows that Brissett is not the future of the Commanders. And honestly, I'm decently high on Howell. I think he has some good potential. I'm really excited to watch him this season. Honestly, going into that 2022 NFL draft, I saw him as a 2nd or 3rd round pick, and Washington ended up getting him in the 5th round, which was crazy to me. I know last year's draft was not super good with quarterbacks. I mean, Kenny Pickett was the first one off the board, and then Malik Willis. So I understood that, but based off of what Sam Howell did in college at North Carolina, especially in 2020 when he actually had some viable targets on the outside, he was getting some 1st round hype heading into the 2021 college season, but then he kind of had a down year. I don't think he was horrible, but he definitely didn't improve or continue to stay as good as he was the year prior. So Washington got some really good value getting him in the 5th round, but now it's about if he can pan out. And Washington this offseason made sure to surround him with pieces on their offense and even on their coaching staff with a new offensive coordinator in Eric Bieniemy. Bieniemy, in my opinion, is a very interesting coach, and it kind of depends on who you talk to with how people view him. Some people view him as the next really good offensive coordinator, while other people kind of view him as nothing special. I'm pretty optimistic about him. He's been around a lot of great coaches, Andy Reid as of recent. He knows what it takes to have an effective offense. He knows what it takes to develop a quarterback. He's seen the best one in the league for multiple years now. And the offense that the Chiefs run, which is very RPO centric, he's going to bring that to Washington, and Sam Howell is really effective at running that offense as well. He ran that at Carolina his entire career, so he has some familiarity with that. He was effective at running that. So I do see the potential of Bieniemy and Howell being a good fit, but now we'll just have to wait and see how that all plays out. As far as offensive talent goes, I think Washington may be one of the most underrated teams in the league. You got a star wide receiver 1 in Terry McLaurin. They drafted a very capable wide receiver 2 in the 1st round in last year's draft in Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel as your wide receiver 3 who can play in the slot. He's a very good run after the catch wide receiver. I think he's another solid option. And they have a solid duo of running backs, Brian Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson. So as far as offensive playmakers, Howell has everything that he needs to be successful. And their offensive line as a whole, I think, is solid. I don't think it's going to be a top unit in the league, but can it be an average unit? I definitely think so. They signed Charles Leno Jr. basically off the street when Chicago cut him, and he was a very solid option at left tackle last season. They signed Andrew Wiley from the Kansas City Chiefs to a 3-year deal worth $24 million. He was a pretty solid right tackle option for a Super Bowl winning team. Can he bring that level of play to Washington? That's the question there. And then their former 2nd round pick in the 2021 NFL draft, Sam Cosmi, he was originally drafted to be tackle, but this year I think they're going to start him at right guard. And then for their interior, they have a collection of veteran players, but also some young guys that they drafted that can kind of compete for those jobs. The veterans right now are probably going to start the season in Nick Gates at center, Andrew Norwell at left guard, but they also drafted Ricky Stromberg out of Arkansas in the 3rd round. Then their next pick in that draft, they drafted another guard, Braden Daniels out of Utah. So the pieces are there to have a solid unit. They have a new play caller now, a new offensive coordinator in Eric Bieniemy, and their weaponry on the outside is severely underrated. I think Washington did a fantastic job setting up Sam Howell for success, and now it's about if he can put it all together. And on the defensive side of the ball, that's really been the anchor for the team in the last few years. 2022 was another really good season for them. They finished top 10 in scoring defense, which is always the most important metric. Their defensive line is honestly one of the most talented in the league, with Chase Young, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and Montez Sweat. Outside of his rookie year, Chase Young hasn't really worked out a ton. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option, but I still have hope that he can return to what he was at Ohio State and his first year. He's a supremely talented player, and if he comes out hungry in 2023 with the rest of the players on that defensive line, they're definitely going to be a force to reckon with and probably end up being one of the most productive defensive lines in the league. An area where they did struggle a little bit last season was forcing turnovers, but they addressed that in the 1st round of the 2023 draft when they drafted Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State. I saw a lot of people having him as the best playmaking corner in the draft. If it's a 50-50 ball, if he gets his hands on an interception, good luck. He's going to probably take it to the house. So now they compare him with a very solid veteran in Kendall Fuller on the other side. And then in the back end, they have Cameron Curl, and they drafted another safety in the 2nd round in Jartavius Martin. So overall, the talent on their defense is very apparent. I think that's going to be a really good unit again next year. Their success in their season next year is going to come down to Sam Howell and the offense. Can Sam Howell utilize those weapons efficiently? Can he put up some points? And if he can do that, Washington could be a very underrated team in 2023. But if I were a Washington fan, something that I would feel really good about is next year's draft class is loaded with top quarterback talent. I've talked about it many times on the channel. Caleb Williams is coming out, Drake May, and even Quinn Ewers if you believe in him. So if Howell does not perform well next year, does not take advantage of the opportunity and Washington picks, around the top 10, I could honestly see them trading up for one of those top quarterbacks, and then he's in a situation that's honestly pretty good for a young quarterback. But overall, I'm really excited for Washington fans. I think they have a lot to look forward to in the future. It's only a matter of time before Dan Snyder is officially out as the team's owner. He's got a couple of offers, but now it's just kind of a wait and see game. It's a long process of transferring over a purchase of multi-billion dollars for a team. So pretty soon, Washington is going to have a completely new ownership group, a completely new organization. They have a young quarterback to build around, whether that's Sam Howell or somebody that they draft next year, and they still have a very nice collection of players both on offense and defense. So I'm excited to see how things play out for Washington over the next few years and if they can finally find their long-awaited franchise quarterback. But let me know what you think about the Washington Commanders and how many games you think they're going to win in 2023. Also, let me know if you think Sam Howell will be their franchise quarterback or who they should target in next year's draft. So subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it, And as always, thank you so much for watching the video, and I will catch you guys in my next one.